Dear listeners, pursuant our chapter 179, this one addresses Ozzy's comments upon our chapter 175, Muhammad's anti-Semitism. This is done to completely discredit him as a viable adversary to our series, our own Satan. Ozzy, I cannot understand your mirth regarding the definition of anti-Semitism that I made. This is available in practically every dictionary except, of course, an Arabic or a Mohammedan one. There was no plagiarism. No one in Europe associated the Arabs with the Jews as Semites, not even Hitler, who was a friend of the Mufti of Jerusalem, Hajj Amin al-Husseini. As the definition that you also quoted said, the prejudice or hostility is usually characterized by a combination of religious, racial, cultural, and ethnic biases. Hence, the hatred can be based on the beliefs of the Jews, no matter what their race is. Ozzy, in the scheme of things, I would not have spent 1 second in showing you for what you really are, the usual Muhammadan apologist whose only sources are the very suspect Muhammad's Quran and the Hadiths that were mass-produced in the 300 years after his death. As our listeners already know from our chapter 125, Hadiths or Ahadith, out of a collection of almost 1 million Hadiths by Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi and Abu Dawood, only a maximum of 10,000 are deemed authentic, not even 1% reliability. So much for the Sahih records of the scholars of Islam that you repeatedly tell our listeners about. Moreover, I repeat yet again that all the records that are available to humanity regarding Muhammad, his Quran and Hadiths are totally one-sided, coming only from his followers. We have not got a single independent record to substantiate or support these stories. These are the very inauthentic, suspect, and unsubstantiated ones that you use in defense of your indefensible position. As you, as well as everybody else knows by now, I did not make any quotations in this chapter so that, as anticipated, you would complain about it and hang yourself as you did. Thank you. The only reason why I have made these 2 videos regarding your attacks on ours is not for worry about our intelligent and independently thinking listeners of ours, but because several Muhammadans actually thought you were Allah's knight defending the honors of Muhammad and his Quran. As you well know, our series is not directed at the followers of Muhammad, but at the 80% so-called unbelievers. Any follower of Muhammad who may wake up after listening to us would be a huge bonus, but only a byproduct. Nonetheless, we would rather not lose even this probability if they believe you and not us. Saving their sanity and a brighter future is extremely important to us. By the way, just in case you have not listened to all of our chapters, Ozzy, Muhammad was not a prophet, and this character, based entirely on the records of Muhammadan Muslims, is so sickening and revolting that only like-minded people such as yourself would accept him as your mentor. Your utter stupidity is revealed repeatedly regarding what I call the Bible, Hebrew Scripture, Torah, and the New Testament. Not once did I say that the Quran mentions Hebrew Scriptures. Muhammad only used the book, Injil and Torah, without ever knowing which literature were contained in any of them. I use the term Hebrew Bible to differentiate it from the Christian Bible, which is made up of the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament. But of course, this is beyond your intellectual comprehension. I repeat once more, that you as a defender of Muhammadan Islam have to be a pathological liar, as I shall prove forthwith. What is it that you find so funny about the 2 periods of Muhammad's alleged revelations, the Mecca and Medina? You should know, but would of course not reveal to our listeners, that the Quran is so imperfect that there are verses revealed in Medina embedded in the Mecca period and vice versa. You lied. Moreover, as you really should know but would still not enlighten our listeners, is the fact that for the first 16 to 18 months in Medina, while he was attempted to ingratiate himself with the Judaized Arabs, his alleged revelations were still moderate. But of course, you would not tell this to our listeners, being such a truthful and factual person. Of course not. Again, you lied. Most important of all, as our learned listeners already know, except of course any Muhammadans, All the good and conciliatory verses were abrogated, and if you want references, look for them in our chapters. Once more, you lied. While playing with your Salafi-style beard, you mentioned that specific Jews or specific hypocrites betrayed the Medina covenant. Really? How do you know? What sources are you quoting besides your usual one-sided ones? Anything from the Judaized Arabs? Anything from the pagan Arabs? Anything from any other independent sources? If not, then how dare you mislead our listeners by asserting that such a covenant ever existed? Muhammad always found excuses to slaughter any and all those whom he perceived as his enemies, as we have shown in several of our chapters. Listen to them. It was always Muhammad who betrayed and ambushed all others. Always. Ozzy, I never make a statement that I cannot back up to the hilt, unlike you and every single Muhammadan that we have ever encountered. Muhammad hated the Jews of Medina, whether they were Judaized Arabs or of Israelite stock or not, because they knew that he was a liar and a charlatan, and he could not afford to have such witnesses alive. Anti-Semitism is hate against Jews as a race and or their beliefs. Since anti-Semitism is a very European Christian phenomenon, it is invariably associated with the Christian dogma that the Jews are guilty of deicide, that is, the crucifixions of Jesus. Again, you are lying. The fact remains that centuries before Muhammad, there was no hatred of the Jews or Judaized Arabs, nor of the Christian Arabs. Once more, you are lying by not pointing this out. Ozzy, it is obvious that you have absolutely no idea what or who a Jew is. A nationality? A race? A religion? All of the above? You are confused, are you not? You have no idea where they originated from. You have no idea why they are called Jews in the first place. You should listen to our chapters and get enlightened. The Bible, ignoramus Muhammad, did not ever know he was a Semite. Again, you are lying. Ozzy, I never shoot myself anywhere, unlike you and other followers of Muhammad who always shoot themselves in the mouth. I said that pre-Islamic Arabs settled accounts by single combat. Can you hear me? I said pre-Islamic Arabs, that is, before Muhammad's ungodly appearance in Arabia. Once more, you are lying. Now, I address your worst case of lying so far. You said that the hadiths say that Muhammad and his minions observed the Qibla towards Jerusalem because the Kaaba had idols in it and because of Muhammad's night journey. He felt very connected to that area as a sacred area to pray towards, whereas the Kaaba at that point represented idolatry. And Muhammad felt like the pure monotheism and pure Qibla was Jerusalem. Really, Ozzy? And you make believe you are knowledgeable in the Quran and Hadiths? Muhammad was praying in the Kaaba while it was a house of idolatry all his adult life. There is not a single instance in either the Quran or the Hadiths that tell us that he did not pray in the Kaaba because it contained idols. Again, you have lied blatantly and obviously. What night journey, Ozzy? The concocted miracle that was destroyed in our chapter 15? You really have no shame asserting any miracle performed by Muhammad when the Quran and Aisha deny him any. Another lie. Ozzy, you erroneously accused me several times of shooting myself in the foot. Ozzy, you have just shot yourself in the mouth in front of all of our listeners, both so-called believers and unbelievers, for the second time. Ozzy, if you really knew your subjects, you would have known that the only time the Kaaba was without its 360 idols was 1 year before Muhammad met his Allah. Ozzy, you have made a gross and crystal clear error with this line of deception. I have proven to all our listeners, based entirely upon your video, that you are a pathological liar, just like your mentor Muhammad. It is utter stupidity, Ozzy, that you abandoned the teachings of the peace-loving Jesus for the hate-mongering and mass-murdering Muhammad. Ozzy, this is the last time any of our chapters would address any incompetent Muhammadan attacker such as yourself. In a way, answering you has not been such a waste of time after all, since we have demonstrated to our listeners that no Muhammadan can ever prove us wrong or deceitful. Ozzy, I would like to whisper a secret to you. Please be aware that comparing the Bible to the Quran is like comparing a living human being to an inanimate statue. Dear listeners, please remember what I have mentioned on many previous occasions, that it is by divine will, qidra ilahiyya, and divine justice, adl ilahi, that the very hadith that explain the Quran and the Sunnah to the followers of Muhammad are the very same that destroy Muhammad's veracity and the Quran's alleged divine origin. Last but not least, Ozzy, neither you nor any and all 1,400 million Mohammedans can prove us wrong based entirely upon the very Arabic sources themselves.